to all on our furry frequency, and hello there to our loyal brigadiers, and welcome to another episode of the Bark Brigade podcast by Dogzilla Magazine.
It is great to be here, and we have a really crucial topic today.
We absolutely do, because every single summer, thousands of, incredibly well-meaning dog owners accidentally strip their best friends of their only natural defense against the sun and heat.
Right, and it's all because they basically fundamentally misunderstand this biological marvel sitting right there in their living room.
Exactly. So our mission today is to dive deep into a comprehensive article from Dogzilla Magazine titled "The Truth About Shaving a Labrador: What Every Owner Gets Wrong." We're going to completely debunk the popular yet totally misguided quick fix of shaving a shedding dog.
Yeah, we really need to explore the biology of a double coat and uncover the unintended consequences of taking clippers to a dog like a Labrador.
And most importantly, we're going to reveal the actual solutions to those hair-covered floors and hot dogs. Because if you've ever looked at a tumbleweed of dog hair rolling across your living room and thought, maybe I should just shave them, this deep dive is going to save you and your dog a massive headache.
It really will, because what's fascinating here is that what looks like a simple short coat is actually a highly engineered two-part system designed for temperature regulation and protection.
That is such a huge point. So before we talk about why shaving is a bad idea, we really have to understand what we are actually cutting off, right?
Absolutely. We have to start with the anatomy.
Because I'll admit, a Labrador's coat is super deceptive. Like from across the room, it looks really short, flat, and simple. You don't look at it and think it's this massive insulator.
Right. It doesn't look like a husky coat.
Right.
But if you actually run your hand against the grain of a lab's coat, you hit this immediate resistance.
Oh, yeah. It's so dense, like deeply packed in there.
Exactly. And that density comes from the fact that it's a two-part system. First, you have the guard hairs, which form the outer layer.
Okay, so what exactly do the guard hairs do?
Well, their primary function is environmental protection. They're actually coated in natural oils, which makes them hydrophobic. So they repel water, mud, and light debris.
Okay, so this is basically the dog's built-in raincoat and armor.
That's a perfect analogy, yeah. It deflects the elements, but underneath that you have the second layer, which is the undercoat.
And that's the really soft, fluffy stuff, right?
Right. It's much finer, softer hair that grows beneath the guard hairs, and it changes with the seasons. Its job is thermal regulation, trapping a layer of air against the skin.
And this soft undercoat is the real culprit behind all the shedding.
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
But what's interesting is that this undercoat actually traps loose hair.
Wait, really? It just holds on to it?
Yeah, that's why you can have a dog that looks completely fully coated, but when you take a brush to them, you are pulling out literal grocery bags of hair.
It's wild. It feels like a magic trick. You brush, and the dog doesn't look any smaller.
Because the guard hairs maintain the structure, while the loose undercoat gets woven into the healthy hair underneath.
And that shedding reality is something every owner deals with. The article points out how yellow labs always leave hair on dark clothes.
Right, and black labs leave it on light furniture.
Exactly. If you have a yellow lab, you basically can't wear black yoga pants anymore. But we have to remember, this is a normal cycle, not a crisis.
It is entirely normal. And that brings us to the regrowth problem, which is the real why behind why shaving is so bad.
Right, the mismatch in how the hair grows back.
Exactly. So when you shave a double coat, the two layers don't grow back at the same speed. The soft undercoat is designed to react quickly to temperature, so it often appears first.
While the guard hairs lag way behind.
Yes. The guard hairs have a very slow growth cycle, so they take much longer to return.
Okay, let's unpack this. It means you don't just get a shorter coat, you get a completely different uneven coat. One area is fluffy, another is thin.
That is exactly what happens. You've completely inverted the architecture of the coat.
So you basically have a dog walking around in soft, fluffy underwear with no raincoat on top.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. And to make matters worse, things like age, certain medications, or existing skin conditions can make this recovery even slower.
So an older lab might never get their proper coat back.
Right. The damage can sometimes be permanent, and this leads to a massive loss of physical protection.
Because they don't have that armor anymore.
Exactly. The coat actively shades the skin. So when you remove it, you expose the dog to severe sunburn, scratches from branches, and insect bites.
That is so dangerous. So you thought you were cooling them down, but are you actually just removing their umbrella?
You absolutely are. You're stripping away their thermal buffering system.
Now, obviously, overheating is still a real risk for dogs, right?
Oh, for sure. Hard exercise, warm vehicles, high humidity, those are all massive risks.
Yeah.
But shaving doesn't replace sensible heat management.
It just makes them more vulnerable. So if the double coat is this crucial, why do groomers ever shave them?
Well, it turns out the first mistake usually happens before the clippers even turn on.
Really? Like at the front desk?
Yeah, exactly. It's about misinterpreting the owner's requests. An owner comes in, they're frustrated, and they say, take it short for summer.
Right, because they're dealing with hair all over the floor or they think the dog is too hot.
Exactly. But a groomer often wrongly treats that as a styling choice, rather than a cry for help regarding the shedding, the heat, the itching, or even just a damp smell.
So the groomer just grabs the clippers instead of asking why the owner wants them short.
Precisely. And this leads to what the source calls the poodle versus Labrador error.
Oh, I love this comparison. Walk us through that.
So poodles need cutting because their hair grows continuously, much like human hair. It stays in an active growth phase.
But labs shed on a totally different cycle.
Right. They shed based on seasons and hormones.
It's like mowing a lawn that's made of two different plants. Mowing doesn't stop the roots from growing, it just shortens the grass for a minute.
That is exactly it. A clipper blade shortens what is seen above the skin, but it doesn't stop the follicles from doing their job.
So the shedding cycle just keeps going, which totally shatters that clean house illusion.
Oh, the clean house illusion is a massive trap.
Right, because people think, I'll shave the dog and my floors will finally be clean.
And initially, it might seem better. For a week or two, you don't see those big tumbleweeds of hair.
But the reality is actually much worse, isn't it?
It's terrible because
Yeah.
what happens is those tiny clipped hairs fall out and work their way into your sofas and car seats like microscopic splinters.
Ugh, like little porcupine quills woven into your fleece jacket.
Exactly. And they are nearly impossible to vacuum up. And then eventually the loose undercoat returns anyway, so the shedding problem comes right back.
So you traded tumbleweeds you could sweep up for tiny needles permanently stuck in your couch.
Basically, yeah. And another reason owners ask for a shave is because they misunderstand heat. They see their dog panting in the groomer's lobby and think they're roasting.
Right, but a panting lab might just be stressed, right? Like they just had a car ride, they're in a noisy reception area.
Exactly. Panting is a stress response just as much as a cooling mechanism. It doesn't necessarily mean they are overheating from their coat.
And when a groomer misreads that and decides to shave them anyway, we run into the issue of poor blade work.
Which is physically dangerous for the dog. Professional clipper blades run at thousands of strokes per minute and they heat up incredibly fast.
So you have hot metal dragging across the skin.
Yes. And repeated passes, especially on sensitive areas like the shoulders, the belly, the groin, or the elbows, cause severe redness and clipper burn.
Which the owner doesn't even realize happened until the next day.
Right. They get the dog home, the skin gets inflamed, and the dog starts obsessively licking the area.
Which just introduces bacteria, makes it worse.
Yeah.
It's a disaster. So if groomers shouldn't be shaving for style or convenience, what exactly is their role when a coat has actual issues?
Well, this is where we have to talk about spotting the red flags.
Right, because groomers do see things owners miss. What are the visible warning signs we should be looking for?
According to the text, groomers should be looking for moist patches, especially near the neck or tail.
Those are usually hot spots, right?
Exactly. They also need to check for strong odors, pre-existing bald areas, thick flakes or crusts on the skin, pain upon touch, and chewing that actually breaks the skin.
So if a groomer finds one of these issues, what is their true responsibility?
This raises an important question about the boundary between grooming and medicine.
Oh, I like how you phrase that. The boundary between grooming and medicine.
Right, because a groomer must point out these visible issues to the owner, but they have to leave the actual diagnosis to a veterinarian.
Because shaving over a sore patch doesn't fix it. It just hides the cause, right?
It hides the cause, and it severely irritates the tender skin with a hot clipper blade.
So medical clipping belongs strictly under veterinary guidance.
Absolutely. In a sterile environment, often with pain management.
Which brings up the crucial role of education for groomers. The article actually mentions an online dog grooming courses certification for beginners.
Yes, and that kind of legitimate training is vital. It provides a starting point for proper coat identification.
And safe tool use, which prevents those awful clipper burns.
Exactly. And it teaches them how to have a proper client consultation before they ever get to the practical experience.
Because knowing how to talk to an owner is just as important as knowing how to brush a dog.
Maybe even more important.
Okay, so we've established that shaving is a bad idea, but let's play devil's advocate. Let's say someone listening already asked for a shave, or maybe they just adopted a freshly shaved lab. What actually happens next?
Well, what happens first is the illusion of success.
Right. Because honestly, when they first walk out of the salon, it looks kind of convincing. The outline is neat, it feels super smooth.
It feels like a win. But then, very quickly, the regrowth starts.
And this is what we call the ugly regrowth phase.
It is incredibly ugly.
Yeah.
Because of that uneven return we talked about, you get soft hair rushing back around the neck, the thighs, and the back first.
While the guard hairs are just lagging behind, doing nothing.
Right, so visually, it's a mess.
You get this visible collar line that lasts for weeks, and the whole coat just feels really woolly before it settles, if it ever even settles.
And often, it doesn't. But beyond looking bad, we have to consider the skin sensitivities and sunburn.
Right, because the dog's sensory experience is totally thrown off.
Exactly. Newly exposed skin feels very strange to a dog. They feel air currents they've never felt before.
Which explains why they start rubbing themselves on the carpets or aggressively licking their sides.
Yes. They are trying to soothe that bizarre sensation. And then, as you step outside, sun exposure becomes a massive practical issue.
Because they have no umbrella.
Right. Pale labs redden and blister, and dark skin absorbs the heat and burns. So managing midday sun becomes much harder, not easier.
You essentially turn your dog into a vampire. They can only go out at night.
Basically, yes. And then we hit the ultimate irony.
Oh, yes. Here's where it gets really interesting. The shedding does not stop.
It does not stop.
Hmm.
Because the shave did nothing to alter the biological cycle.
The follicles just keep on ticking. The shave just added this long, awkward regrowth period without actually solving the original maintenance problem.
Which is incredibly frustrating for the owner. And that frustration often leads to post-grooming fallout.
Right. The dog is acting weird, and the owner panics.
The dog is panting heavily post-groom, and the owner thinks it's from the coat, but it's likely from warmth, stress, excitement, or even pain.
Just a quick note for our listeners, though. If you see excessive drooling, weakness, or collapse, that is an urgent vet emergency, not just stress.
Very true. That's a critical distinction. But typically, the dog just looks uncomfortable and the coat looks uneven.
So the owner tries to overcorrect. You see the uneven coat, you panic, and you bathe them again, or spray heavy fragrance on them, or start brushing really hard.
And that just makes tender skin so much worse.
So what should they do instead?
Shade and a light touch are vastly better. You just have to let the skin heal.
Okay, so since shaving is totally off the table for dealing with hair, heat, and smell, what are the actual practical solutions? Let's get into the better alternatives.
The first alternative is mastering proper brushing technique.
Which requires the right tools. Let's break those down. First is the rubber curry brush.
Which is fantastic. It relies on friction, not sharp metal, so it lifts dead hair from the outer coat without scraping the skin.
I love those things. But for heavier seasonal sheds, you need an undercoat tool, right?
You do. But here is where we have to talk about pressure.
Yes, pressure is everything.
Working one patch of the dog's skin until absolutely no hair appears is a massive mistake.
Because eventually you're just pulling out healthy hair.
Exactly. It removes healthy coat and severely irritates the skin. Like we said before, more hair on the floor doesn't necessarily mean better grooming.
It just means you're being too aggressive. Okay, so after brushing, we have bathing and the crucial drying phase.
Bathing is great because it helps release the trapped undercoat. But the shampoo actually has to reach the skin.
Right, you can't just lightly lather the top layer. And then you have to rinse fully out of that dense coat, which takes way longer than people think.
It does. But the real failure in home routines is the drying phase.
Tell me about it. Towels do basically nothing for a double coat.
They only get the surface water. What you actually need is controlled airflow.
Like a high-velocity force dryer?
Exactly. The airflow separates the coat and blows all that loosened dead hair completely out of the follicle.
It's like a snowstorm of dog hair in your bathroom. But there's a catch with those dryers, right?
Yes. The air must stay a comfortable temperature and pressure. If the dog is frantically spinning in circles or completely freezes in terror, the setting is way too high.
You have to read their body language. So what does a realistic, sustainable routine actually look like?
It's pretty straightforward. Weekly brushing with the curry brush, and obviously more often during heavy sheds.
And bathing only when they're genuinely dirty,
Okay.
not just because it's Tuesday.
Exactly. Drying fully after they swim is non-negotiable, and checking their ears and paws regularly.
Okay, that handles the hair. But what about the other reasons people shave their dogs? Let's address smell and heat directly.
Smell's a big one. You have to separate a damp dog smell from a medical smell.
Right, like a wet towel smell versus a sour, yeasty smell.
Exactly. A damp dog just needs better drying and clean bedding. But a sour or yeasty smell? That needs a vet.
Not a bottle of fragrant dog cologne.
Never the fragrant spray. It just irritates an active infection.
Okay, and tackling heat management.
Heat management is entirely about managing their environment, not altering their hair.
Right, early morning walks before the asphalt gets hot, keeping them in deep shade, giving them plenty of water.
And being very aware of humidity. Sticky, saturated air tires a dog out incredibly fast because they can't effectively pant to cool down.
I specifically want to bring up the ball-obsessed Labrador from the article here, because this is so common.
It's a very dangerous scenario.
They will not stop running. Even if they are literally overheating to a dangerous degree, they will keep chasing that ball, so the human holding the ball has to be the one to stop the game.
The dog won't self-regulate, so you have to be the adult in the room.
Which takes a lot of awareness. And executing all of these alternatives, the brushing, the drying, the heat management, it isn't just about having the right brush. It requires specialized knowledge.
Which is exactly why grooming training matters before anyone tries to tackle a double coat.
Because knowing when to stop is a huge skill.
It might be the hardest grooming skill to master. It isn't just knowing how to shorten hair, it's knowing when shortening is the absolute wrong call.
Which requires parting the coat, looking down at the skin, and actually checking what's going on first.
Right, you have to act as a diagnostician. And this leads to customized care and tool selection.
Because not every dog needs the exact same routine. A lab that swims in a muddy lake every weekend needs totally different care than a senior lab that just sleeps indoors all day.
Exactly. And the tool selection reflects that. Curry brushes, rakes, slickers, and clippers all do entirely different physical jobs.
You can't just pick the one that removes hair the fastest.
No, you pick the one that preserves the coat's integrity, and then there is the physical reality of the job. Animal handling and client communication.
Dog handling is no joke. Just because a lab is friendly doesn't mean they are still. They are 80 pounds of pure muscle that wants to run on you.
Exactly. That's why professional training teaches the use of non-slip surfaces, gentle but firm restraint, and understanding when a dog needs a break.
Especially for older dogs who might have sore hips or joints.
It's critical for their safety. And then there's the client conversation, which we touched on earlier.
Right, when the frustrated owner comes in demanding a shave.
If a groomer just gives a blunt refusal, like, no, I won't do it, that sounds completely unhelpful and arrogant.
And the owner will just go to someone else who will shave the dog.
Right. So a properly trained groomer de-escalates, explains what the coat is actually doing, and then offers a full de-shedding treatment instead. They offer a biological solution.
And the final piece of that professional puzzle is the power of record keeping. I think this is so important.
It's the foundation of preventative care. You need detailed notes on the skin condition, how well the dog tolerated the high-velocity dryer, and things like that.
And photos. Taking photos to document pre-existing bald patches or strange moles.
Yes. Ensuring a safe medical history is maintained over the dog's life, rather than just relying on guesswork from visit to visit.
It really separates a professional from an amateur. So, to bring this all together for our final synthesis, we've covered a massive amount of ground today.
We have. And if we look at the FAQ and the final thoughts from the article, the consensus is clear. The coat protects the skin. Shedding has its own natural necessary cycle, and clipping violently disrupts it.
It causes far more problems than it solves.
Exactly. Brushing, bathing, and proper drying are the kinder, slower, and actually effective answers to getting a cleaner floor.
While preserving the dog's health.
Right. Medical exceptions, directed by a vet, are the absolute only valid reason for a shave.
It really makes you think about how we interact with our pet's biology, which leaves me with a final provocative thought for you listening right now. If our well-intentioned intervention in a completely natural cycle, like a dog's seasonal shedding, actually causes more biological chaos than it solves, what other quick convenience fixes in pet care might we be doing that are actually working against our dog's natural biology?
That is a profound question, and one every owner should really ponder.
Thank you for listening, dear Brigadiers. And if you have any questions, visit the source article on Dogazilla magazine at dogazilla.com. That was all for this episode, and until the next time, bye to all listeners of the Bark Brigade podcast.